Heal Yourself with Sarah Dawkins, Episode 8, with guest Teresa Page. Equipped with a bachelor's and a master's degree in business administration and a graduate certificate in life coaching, Teresa is excited about her second career as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor. Teresa employs faith and practical principles to demonstrate how its effective influence empowers women to lead, create, and generate wealth in the full fullness of their equality and purpose. Knowledgeable in industry trends and benevolent in our community service to heavily impact change in our global culture and influence the next generation of 21st century leaders. Welcome, Teresa Page. Hello.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. It's such a pleasure to speak to you again.
It's an honor to be here and just love the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, and likewise for you for coming on. So today, would you like to tell the listeners what your subject is?
Yes, absolutely. I think what we're going to focus about is as far as with your work in healing and health and well-being. Today, we're going to talk about the gift of self-care. And so I would say that the subtitle is that it's not rocket science, but there is a method to the madness. So I hope we'll have a great conversation and that I'll be able to share some personal experiences that will leave some value for your audience and your listeners.
Oh, how wonderful. Because self-care is so important, not just in the healing process, but in ourselves, to love ourselves and understand who we are. And we can undertake self-care in so many different ways, can't we?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it really starts there with love, Sarah, because one of the things that I think that I've learned, especially over the last 6 to 7 years, is that oftentimes we spend or we live a life wherein loving others is maybe the priority and very um, but we also live in a space where we don't spend as much time with ourselves and we don't love ourselves as much as we should.
Yeah.
And so I would say again, in the last 6 to 7 years of my life's journey, that's really been the lesson that I've had to come back home to myself to really love myself. And in doing that, it now enables me to be able to love others a little bit more effectively, a little bit more passionately, because now I have a better understanding of me. So self care starts in love of self. And so I'm excited about our conversation today on how that looks just simply with the spirit, soul, and body.
Wonderful. Yeah, because so often many people don't know how to love themselves. And I think as women, we tend to be the givers in life, don't we? So we give to others, and often we don't fill up our own cup because we just keep giving and giving and giving. And it's so easy for us to do because it's what we do with the family, with the friends, everything.
Absolutely. But that's I think that's the beautiful part about us though, Sarah, because because that we could give from that overflow, because I think that we are built and we are made for love. And so that's just what we do. That's just part of what makes us super, what makes us great. And that's connected to a lot about my love, or at least about the foundation of my business, because I want to be able to demonstrate to women how love empowers us to lead, it empowers us to create, it empowers us to create wealth, and all of that in the fullness of our equality and in our purpose, and that overflows in all of our aspects, personal and professional. I even recall there was, I don't know if you got a chance to see, there was an interview in between Iyanla Van Zant and Oprah Winfrey. And so she was saying that love of ourselves is not selfish, but is self-full, because we actually have to give out of our overabundance. And we can't do that unless we truly love ourselves and really know ourselves and really take care of ourselves first, so that we are always positioned to give to others as much as we love to do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing with love, I think it's the answer to everything, because we have to love ourselves so that we can love others. And when we love what we do, it shows in our passion and in our energy. And I think when there's a deficit of love, the world becomes a darker place.
Absolutely. I think the issue is, Sarah, and it's connected to a lot about my work. What I've understood is that we have underestimated what love really is. I think that we have just left it in the box of just of emotions and feelings and all of that woozy, butterflies. And with Valentine's Day coming up, you come out chocolates and roses and all that kind of stuff. And love, actually, there's a space for that in love. But what I want us to, or at least what I hope that we will become more aware of, is that love really is the most atomic superpower available to the human family. And it's important that we understand that love is not just an emotion, but it's an enablement, that is actually a living and breathing entity that enables us to fulfill all of our purpose here in the earth. And so if we could look at it more as a superpower, more as a skill set, we'll be able to find that we can apply it to our most intense realities, regardless of what it is, that it can be applied to every one of our personal, professional, our faith based, any type of situation. Love has an answer for it. It's so intelligent that way. And so I'm really excited about how to be able to open up what love really means to us. So if we could take it out of that space of just of emotion and actually learn to utilize it as a tool for everything that we face, we will find how much more successful we would be and how much our world would be a much more loving and a forgiving place to live in.
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. And when it shows when we do things coming from a place of love, from a heart space, it shows in our lives. It shows up in our jobs. It shows up in our bank balances. Um, and like you say, it's not just an emotion. It's a it's an action. I think love is an action, and it's what we do, but it's what we do for others as well. We can say I love you, and people know that we're conveying that love, but we can also show that love without those words in the things that we do for other people, and the way that we live our lives, and just generally being kind to people is as an act of love as well.
Absolutely. Kindness is one of those things. And I think, people back up from love because of what the preconceived notion that we have about it. But it does show up, just like you mentioned, in kindness, in value, just plain old respect. Respect. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have to run around using those words, because I do think that love is actually can be an intimate space. So we do have to be careful with how we use it to the different type of people that's assigned to our lives. So I get that. So if you just want to look at it more so as value, as respect, kindness, or just care, genuine care, then that we'll be able to utilize it just a little bit more. And you spoke about the workplace. A lot of people, what our leaders should understand, that love should be the helm of our workplaces in order for our teams to be successful. And they can demonstrate that in so many different ways, whether it's within their mission, their vision, or their core values. There's a way to implement that as far as with their policies or procedures, or how they allow their teams to operate in autonomy or in just great leadership development. So whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in just regular society, there's so many, as I mentioned, love can be applied to every situation. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you find yourself, there is a way to apply that love, whether it's in our community service, whether we need to come up with a solution for a problem. It's just a all around great tool and skill set for us to utilize for our success.
Yeah, and the other thing that's just popped into my mind now is love language. because, outside of saying I love you, love language can be like to your children, put your coats on, to your husband, are you hungry? Put your seatbelt on. And I think there's a lot of problems showing in the world today because people don't understand each other's love language. It can be seen as nitpicking, as trying to control, but actually people are coming from a space of love when they're saying put your coat on to the child because it's cold outside, they don't want them to catch cold. So it's coming from that place of love. So that love shows up in so many different ways, and oftentimes unexpectedly.
Absolutely. And I was just, just thinking as you were talking about that, even sometimes with my family, because I'm the youngest of, well, it was seven of us, six girls and one boy. And so I'm the youngest of the girls. So, so a lot of times I'll be running around probably a little bit more preachy or fussy with my families and things like that. But I want them to understand, and I don't always do it so lovingly. So I might feel some of them might think I have a crunchy exterior, but I have such a soft heart for my family. And so a lot of times when I'm, maybe it might appear to be fussiness, but it's actually out of my love for them to say, don't go down this path, or don't do this, or let's try to be a little bit more proactive in this, or let's not be reactive, because it's really about, that is my love language, especially with my family. Now it looks different with people outside the house, but with your family, you could be a little bit more real.
Yeah.
And not saying that I'm disingenuous with any of my other interactions, but it just means that with family, I feel like you could take down all of your filters and be able to say it like you need to say it. And so that's what I try to express to my family, that I'm not just fussing, that maybe there's been some roads that I've been down that I don't want you to experience, or that I don't want you to have to go through those hardships. So sometimes that's the way my love language comes across to my family. But
And
it's,
mine
it's
too.
out of love for them.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too. And I've had my family say to me, why? You what you're saying seems illogical, and like that I've experienced this, I've got the knowledge and the background, and I'm coming from a place of love. I want to help you. I know it doesn't sound like it because it's alien to what you do for yourself, but I'm coming from that place of love because I'm trying to protect you.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, we can't control people, and people will do what people will do. And as much as we want to try and help them from that place of love, sometimes they just have to do whatever it is they're going to do anyway.
Absolutely. And I think that's an aspect of love as well, is understanding that each of us, they're not made, they probably won't take the path that we have taken. And you know what, Sarah? They have that right. And I'm having to learn that as I get older, that people have the right to live out their lives however they choose to live it. And whatever the outcomes, whether good or bad, that is their choice. They made their choice. And so that's also another aspect of love. And even if someone falls from an outcome of their decisions, love is so beautiful, and so forgiving, that it will meet them exactly where they are. So we have to be able to trust that love will do its job, even when we're not talking, and even when people don't take our advice. So I feel like that's an act of love as well. Just kind of just step back. You can
Yeah.
share only what you can share. As the old people used to say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But we have to understand, it is everyone's right to be able to live how they choose to live, and whatever the outcomes, let the chips fall where they may. But
Yeah.
love will meet us exactly where we are, and I think that's the beautiful part.
Oh, that's really a beautiful way to put it. Yes. Yes. And I think as well, understanding that, was the quote says, if you love them, set them free. And
Absolutely.
and then they're free to choose if they want to come back, whether it's physically come back into your life, or emotionally, or come back into a conversation, and come back and follow your guidance. But we have to give them that option. We can only give them the information that we've got from the background that we've got, and they can make that choice. And we're all free to choose, but we're not free from the consequences of our choice.
No, we're not.
And, and I think sometimes, even when we make bad choices, we still need to show people that loving kindness, because that we don't need to reinforce that an adversities come about because of a choice that they've made. They will understand that themselves, and we just need to give them that loving kindness that we've seen you make that choice. It wasn't a good choice, but you chose it, and we're still here for you because we love you. At the end of the day, we want to help you and support you, but you've still got freedom of choice to do whatever you want.
Absolutely. And I would definitely say that even I would just say, as far as in life development, I believe that there is room for us to make those mistakes. I think it's kind of built into the plan. There's a contingency for the stupid decisions that we make. And, but it's also, I also believe that is love's opportunity to teach us a lesson. Because when we do mess up, even if someone gave you great guidance, but you chose to go another way, our zealousness puts us in, and if we do mess up, the thing about love is that it, as I mentioned, it'll meet us where we are, but it's also an opportunity for love to teach us a lesson so that we could be a better person. I have definitely have been through some experiences where it was absolutely told to me, don't do this thing. And I was hell bent on doing that, that thing. And and it put me in some very vulnerable places where my decisions put me in some vulnerable places. But what I didn't know, that it was a part of the plan to actually put me on my path for purpose, my purpose's path, because then I got a chance to learn the lessons, that to learn from that particular lesson that actually helps us to grow up. So that's also the beauty of love. People feel like that just because I love you means I got to take all your trash. No, it doesn't. I can be loving of you and still not agree with everything that you do. But I think that is the absolute beauty about love, is because it does cause us to grow up and to mature and to actually get on the right path so we can actually serve the world in the way that we need it to. And I think certain experiences are necessary because it actually adds on to our resume, so to speak, because then we're positioned to help others who may have fallen into that same basket of bad decisions. And because of that experience, or because we now have a little bit of street cred in that particular area, it then makes us a person of influence for others who may have gone down that same road, and we can actually, it actually works out for our good. So everything always, it's a circle. It'll come back. And I think that is the beauty of love's benevolence, love's kindness, and love's opportunity to also bop us on the nose when we need to be bopped on the nose, on the nose, to be made to learn a different lesson. But it all aligns with our purpose, and it's always going to be for our good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, like I said, we need to go through our adversities to gain the skills and also the strength that comes from it. And quite often it can push us onto a different life path. And possibly for yourself, but for myself, when I went through the suicidal depression that absolutely knocked me off course and changed my path, whilst I wouldn't wish it on anybody, it taught me that I need to love myself more, because there's just people pleasing all the time. And without boundaries, and when you don't think about yourself or put yourself first, you just give, you wear yourself out as well. So the adversity, we can grow from the adversity, but also I think it teaches us a deeper meaning and sense of love as well.
Absolutely. And look where you are now, Sarah. As a result of those experiences, you've now created a whole nother world, a whole nother way of expression, whether it's through your business to be able to help others, or with your books, with your courses, and now giving, these platforms as far as podcasts and summits. I mean, that's what it's all about. Otherwise, it's for naught. So our depressions are whatever our issues, our suicidal experiences, or in my case, I've had some experiences with homelessness and different things like that in my past. So, but it wasn't those particular instances does not come to our lives to destroy us. It actually comes to our lives to reveal who we are, and actually reveal us who we are to the world, so we can actually start doing the work. And it actually coming out of those adversities actually gives you a message that you are designed to carry to the world. And you could not have learned that lesson under any other circumstance. And I am convinced, absolutely convinced of that. And that's why, out of my adversity, I've come forth with this message of love, that love is a superpower. It is our enablement to ensure our everyday success. So that is what I came out of my adversity. So if we learn how to actually welcome, I know
Yeah.
it's weird, but if we can welcome our adversities instead of being so busy trying to get out of it and actually understand what is the lesson in this, we will find that we're going to walk out of these situations with a particular message, a particular awareness, with a particular influence that we would have never attained under any other circumstance. So I think that is the beauty of love, that actually drives us into those experiences, even though it doesn't look like it. It drives us in those experiences. It protects us in those experiences. It creates a way of grace for us through those experiences, so we can learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn and come out so much better and so much stronger. And when we have to face future adversities, we've learned from this one and we know enough that
Yeah.
we built in enough faith to know that I am going to survive this one, because there's another lesson of another message that needs to be pulled out of me that I could deliver to the world. So it all has its place, even love, and even in our adversities, it's always for a purpose.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I don't know about yourself, but when I was in my dark place, I didn't have the capacity to comprehend what the lesson was. All I could think about was, how can I stop this? How can I make this situation stop and come out of it? And it was only after I started coming out of it, I looked back, and now I can see the massive lesson in it. And I had to go through that. And I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody else, but that has given me so much understanding of not only myself, my life, but other people as well, to be able to help other people from my own experiences. And I think as adversities come along now, I view them through different eyes, and now that I've been there, I can look at any adversity now and say, well, what is the lesson in this? Whereas that was so big, I couldn't even start thinking logically, what's the lesson? I'm just like, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop.
Absolutely, I know exactly where you're coming from with that, because it was the same thing with me trying to get out of that situation because it's not comfortable. That's just part of our human nature. It is what it is. It doesn't make us good or bad.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, when you were almost on the other side of it, you could then look back at least far enough to say, "Oh, well, now I understand why this had to happen, or why this had to happen, or why that had to happen." And a lot of times it is when you're on your way out, when you can finally see the value of what it is that you went through. And so I would just say, even for me, it was the same thing for me. Almost when I was on the other side of things, I then began to understand that all of this was for my good, to develop me for my next phase in life, my next phase in leadership, my next phase in business. But I would also say, some of the things that I had to learn in my space, Sarah, was that I had to learn to be more kind to my body. I had to heal from a lot of past situations that I didn't deal with. All of that was brought to the forefront. So I
Yeah.
was forced to dig up a lot of stuff, even from my emotional past or whatever. I had to deal with all of that, whether it was with forgiveness or just having to look at it and feel it for the first time. Because as you know, with women, we'll just pack stuff away and say, "I'll deal with this tomorrow." I'll do a Scarlett O'Hara. I'll think about this tomorrow. you know,
Yeah.
but in our adversity, we're forced to look at ourselves face to face, and whatever is broken, we are now then put in a position where we now have to fix it. So for me, it was, especially from the health point of view, I had to deal with my health because I found out that I had very like dangerously low levels of iron. So I finally had to deal with that. I had to deal with my finances because my credit at the time was jacked, which was which is what put me in my situation or kind of led me to my situation. So then I had to make my finances a priority. But then it was also understanding who I was as well as a person because I was living beneath my abilities and often found myself in careers or in positions that was so, I won't say necessarily beneath me, but I knew that I was capable for more than that. So our adversities, again, it is an act of love to make us become a full and a whole and healed person so that we can now navigate in the world with a different type of awareness and with a more different type of focus towards purpose. So I think that is what's so masterful about love is that it makes us deal with those things that we would rather just not deal with in an effort to make us a much more powerful and well-rounded person. So I'm glad that you were able to survive your experience because otherwise we would not be here today. So we do have to walk through dark places, but the promise is that there is light at the end of the tunnel if we endeavor to walk through our process. I always just say, never let a good storm go to waste. It
Yeah.
always comes to help us to be better. So, and it blows off what we don't need and it helps to reveal exactly what we do.
Yeah. And actually, I think that as we're coming out of the adversity and understand our need to heal, um, I think the healing part of it is less traumatic than the adversity that we've come through. Because quite often to want to go into ourselves to find that place that needs the love and the healing takes a lot of courage. But when we've been through such deep adversity, we can dig in and we can find the courage after that because it seems a lot less comparative to what we've been through.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think that now, anything that I face, any challenges right now, is it pales in comparison because I don't intend to see those days again. Not those kind of dark days. And I don't think, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't think that those particular days are going to be necessary anymore because I now think different. So the way that I needed that experiences needed me to start to think moving forward, I now think that way. And so it's helping me to make, so when I make decisions moving forward, I can make sure that my decisions are a little bit more informed because of those decisions that I've
Yeah.
made. I can be a little bit more careful about the relationships that I form and can see red flags from down the street. I can see a hustle from a mile away. And it's helping me to be a little bit more tenacious towards wanting to really live out my purpose fully and out loud. Where now I'm about more about my life's mission than I'm more purposeful about that now, and willing to do and won't let allow anything to deter me. Before then, that wasn't the case. So I think those kind of dark days are necessary to bring us up to a certain level of awareness and to a certain level of thought. And once you have that certain level of awareness and thought, then moving forward, you can maybe catch things or see things from a more global perspective than you wouldn't have seen prior to. So it will not let you stumble, even though there'll be situations, because we're yet learning, we're yet living. There will be more challenges that we'll have to face, but I don't think they're going to be as heavy and as ugly because we now know how to navigate a little bit better. So nothing is ever a waste for us, even in our adversity. So I hope we don't have to see those kind of dark days again. But in the event that we do, we at least have the wherewithal where we can navigate it and still trust that we'll come out on the other side just as strong, if not stronger, than we went into it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think another part of that is, I think I was running my life on autopilot, and it was only through my adversity I actually became conscious of what I was doing. I thought I'd just be a nurse forever and I'd just stay where I was until I retired, not really having to think a lot about what I was doing. And then after the adversity, my life radically changed. And I was stepping out into the unknown all the time. Um, you know, um, Building my comfort zone, expanding it more and more and more. And the more I expanded it, the more confidence it built in me to expand it further. And I consciously now create my life, whereas previously I wasn't really conscious. Well, obviously I was conscious, but I was running on autopilot, just creating my life from my subconscious.
Absolutely. I would definitely say that, and I'm glad that you're having that experience. I would say that it has been the same for me. Like I mentioned, I think it's because it was my level of self esteem or lack of self confidence that I was in certain places that I didn't need to be in. And so going through my experiences has kind of, it's definitely shifted my own perspective about myself. And now I could say what I'm not going to do. I'm like, I'm absolutely not going to do that, or I will do that. I'm not going to hang around people that makes me feel a certain way. I will be intentional about seeking out people that I would want to be around, that's going to help me to grow and challenge me to grow and to develop. So, and even career wise, um, right now I'm doing a side hustle, but right now, career wise, it's all about the business. And everything that I do is all about the business, but it's not just about the business. It is the why behind the business. It is the message that I'm trying to trying to carry. So that autopilot, that mindset of I'm just floating through life kind of thing, or that I have to stay here, or I have to be subject to that, that's gone. It's out.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
Teresa who was like that, she's gone. I don't even know where she went, but she did her job for the time that she needed to do the job. But that Teresa is gone, and I'm proud of that. And I'm allowing and making room for the 2.0 version of myself to come forward, and whatever has to be done, I'm finding myself that I'm having to be a little bit more intentional. And even with my family, it's like sometimes I have to say no to things because I'm like, I got to do this, or I
yeah,
have to do this, or I'm preparing for this. Or sometimes if I'm visiting my mom and I'm up all night, but child, what are you doing? I'm working on this business. This is the work. This is the mission. So that autopilot of I'm just whipping through here or just floating through here, that aspect is gone. And so I'm glad that part of myself is gone because it's making me be a little bit more intentional, and it's helping me to plan out the steps that I'm going to plan out, whether it's either by week or by quarter or whatever. There are certain places that I want to get, and it's helping me to set bigger goals to, as you mentioned, step out of our comfort zones.
yeah,
Never would I thought that, being on podcasts or being on summits or anything like that would be someplace that I would be, but it was in me. It has always been in me. Being able to communicate either through my words or either in my books or in my messages or in my conferences, it doesn't matter. I'm finally at a place where I'm ready to release that kind of information. And so that those days of not being intentional, or those days of just feeling like you're on autopilot, those days are gone. And a lot of times it takes those experiences to bring us to that particular place.
Yeah. And saying no as well and setting boundaries is a form of self-care and very necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't mind saying no. Not anymore. I used to, and sometimes I have to
Yeah.
say absolutely no. And I think with my upbringing, especially Southern upbringing, even if you say no, is you have to give a whole explanation. I've heard, I don't know if you know her or not, but Lisa Nichols, she's also this well renowned coach. She was saying that she learned a lesson from her grandmother that no is a complete sentence. So I don't have to give an explanation.
Love
If I'm
that.
not going to do it, I'm just not going to do it. And no is going to have to be able to stand on its own. And the same thing with my yeses. Let my yes be yes, and let my no be no. And we all grown enough for that. And I could walk off and be finished. Those are complete sentences.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yes.
Oh, what a wise lady your grandma was.
Well, I believe it was Lisa Nichols' grandmother that told her,
Oh,
shared that
sorry.
lesson with us. And she shared it with, those who follow her on social media, that no is a complete sentence. But, I added that part about, so is our yes. Those things
Yeah.
that I want to say yes to, we don't always have to say no. There can be some things that we absolutely want to say yes to, and yes can be a complete a complete sentence. And
It
so
can. It can.
yes.
And stepping out of comfort zones just takes yes. As the saying goes, feel the fear and do it anyway. Just step out and into it. And here I am doing this podcast.
And I'm sitting here with you, Sarah.
I love it. Yeah.
Because even one of my former mentors, because when I was asking her, how can I elevate my leadership, or how can I elevate myself, because I felt like during that particular time or in that position, I felt like I lost a lot of time, because I was going through my adversity, even when I was in that particular space. But I was like, how can I elevate, either my position or at least my presence in where I am? And one of the things that she said was, let this be a year of yes. So
Yeah.
anything that you find, that she was like, especially when you're trying to determine where it is of where you want to go, it gives you an opportunity to kind of try things out to see, do I like this? Do I not? Do I want to keep this? Or was this just a one and done? So also it's, yeah, no is cool, but what about the yeses? Yeses opens you up to new opportunities, to new ways of expression. And the same thing I would say about adversity, that it brings up things about us that we didn't know was there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think that's why adversities come, because there are treasures that's buried inside of us that even we don't have knowledge of. And they won't come to the forefront until the moment calls for it. So when the moment calls, when you now have this new discovery about yourself, you have a new ability, you have a new skill, you have a new talent or a new gift that you weren't aware of prior to, saying yes allows you to exercise those new discoveries. So it could be a blessing to someone else. So no's are important to
Yeah.
protect us and to set those boundaries. But yes, it's also important for us to open new doors of opportunities that's probably beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah, and we can say no and show ourselves the loving compassion and kindness that we would show to others for saying no. And we can say yes and show ourselves the love for wanting to learn and grow, because when we step out of our comfort zones, we step into growth. And we need to love and support ourselves in those times.
Absolutely. 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 So yes, I absolutely agree. So I'm allowing this to be my year of yes. If it sets well with me, I'm definitely doing it. Even if I'm not sure, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I also find if something is really doesn't sit well, I'm absolutely not doing that. And so I'm probably a little bit more aware of what people might want to call that gut feeling, self awareness. It doesn't matter what you want to call
Yeah.
it, but if it feels good, or even if I'm not quite sure if it is good or not, I'm going to at least try it. So as I'm continuing to build community and grow my business, because I'm still very young in business, or with my business, I'm opening myself up to opportunities. And by saying yes, it allows me to sit with wonderful leaders such as yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Teresa.
Absolutely.
Oh, and Teresa, I'm going to wrap it up now. So, could you tell people, please, where they can find you?
Absolutely. They can find me on my website, which is Teresa K Page .squarespace.com. That's Teresa K Page .squarespace.com. So that's a wonderful opportunity for them to join in to see what we do, what kind of services that we're offering, upcoming events, and also to subscribe. So they could get periodic communications from me, as well as some savings that can be applied to some of our goods and our services for this year. So for those of you who would like to connect with me there, connect with me there. But if that's not the place for you, you can always find me on LinkedIn, right there, Teresa K Page, LLC on LinkedIn. So I would encourage you to follow and connect with me. I would love to be able to do that. And also email Teresa K Page LLC at outlook.com. And so, yes, you can find me in any of those places, and we would welcome you with open arms.
Oh, fabulous. And I'll put all those details in the text below this video. And the other thing is, you were a fabulous guest on my Heal Yourself Online Live Summit in January. So this video that I'm going to put down here somewhere, haven't worked that out yet, will be a link out to your talk on my summit. So thank you so much for being with me and sharing your knowledge and inspiration to the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess if I had to leave any final words, because we were talking about love and self care towards spirit, soul, and body, and we've talked about some other things, but one of the things I would encourage the audience to do is to learn to love yourself a little bit more. Take some time, set some time aside to really take stock in your personal inventory so you can love yourself a little bit more. Give yourself the self care that you need. Don't let your spirit, soul, and body beg for anything. Listen to what is telling you that it needs and have the willingness to act upon that. And if you're having any challenges, if you can't do any of those things alone, make sure that you're seeking out the medical care that you need, or either just connecting to helping professionals like myself and Sarah to help you along the way. So I bid you all love, success, dominion, riches, and wealth.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Sarah. It's such an honor.